G20 nations. As the world is still defining what the digital economy is, G20 nations have started the journey toward achieving peak performance in trade efficiency.
Nielsen has surveyed small, medium and large industry participants from the 19 clusters across all economic zones, including customs, checkpoints, banks, insurance firms, logistics service providers, buyers and sellers. We performed 10 times more interviews than the average number performed by any logistics performance indices. We have conducted these interviews face-to-face and reviewed all interviews through a rigorous quality assurance process. The Trade Efficiency Assessment results have been reviewed by the New Millennium Standard for Growth team, consisting of both public and private sector organisations. The result, a comprehensive assessment that provides the roadmap to vastly increase its trade efficiency and to achieve real economic growth.
Under the 21.6 ETI standard, the G20 nations integration scored 1.46. This signifies the importance of increasing the levels of horizontal integration across G20 nations' 19 trade clusters. This will further leverage G20 nations' ongoing significant investment in several initiatives, such as their national single windows to facilitate trade, thereby improving collaboration among their trade pipeline participants and their trade partners globally. The processes score of 2.15 presents the opportunity for improvement to reach 21.6 ETI standard. The use of technology to implement more efficient processes across all jurisdictions in G20 countries' trade pipelines will contribute towards minimizing unnecessary shipment delays, lowering wait times at points of entry, and reducing excess domestic and international trade costs. The G20 nations tracking and visibility score of 1.88 reflects the level of real-time information concerning a shipment's location and movements. The continued evolution from national single windows to a global single window facilitates online third-party data submission by trade participants, coupled with improved shipment visibility within the trade pipelines, can further enhance planning capabilities of the G20 businesses by improving predictability of shipment deliveries, realizing just-in-time inventory levels and decreasing overall operational costs. The e-documentation score of 1.94 represents an opportunity to increase electronic transfer of shipment data among trade participants across the G20 nations. By increasing the use of electronic documentation and evolving towards a global single window, trade participants will reduce the level of manual data entry throughout trade activities, thereby minimizing human error as well as the frequency of incomplete or missing documentation. This will facilitate advanced customs clearance, thus reducing shipment delays. The competence score of 1.68 indicates that there are gains to be achieved in terms of trade participants' performance in the G20 nations. When properly trained using systems that dynamically monitor trade performance based on contractual obligations, G20 nations' trade workforce can provide G20 businesses a competitive advantage in both their national and global markets. G20 nations' relatively moderate cargo security score of 2.18 reflects the leadership role of G20 nations' customs in implementing efficient practices through the use of technology to secure the country's borders and flow of commerce. However, the lack of integration across the 19 clusters inhibits G20 nations' customs from receiving real-time and validated shipment information, globally necessary to anticipate and stop security threats before they reach their country's borders. We must remember that the 21.6 ETI measures all key areas against the peak performance levels that today's technology makes possible. By understanding the levels of performance that each area must reach and applying the right technological tools to reach them, we marshal a new economic era, the era of the digital economy. Once these levels reach scores between 4.5 and 5, the G20 nations will reduce their landed import and export cost from today's average of 11.4 to 6%, saving about $3.7 trillion annually by 2030. This is only the first step in establishing a solid foundation to boost trade and create jobs throughout the G20 nations, with a trade increase of $7.7 trillion as well as generating millions of new jobs. The G20 nations have taken the lead in maximising the new millennium standard for growth, placing themselves at the forefront of a cutting-edge trade innovation.